Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Stacy Van Dyke. It's been a challenging day for drivers and first responders in the valley. This video was taken by Sergeant Jesse Grabo with Minnesota State Patrol just a couple hours ago. Tow trucks and plows have been out since the early morning hours, and a number of pileups shut down highways and interstates. From 5 a.m. to 11:30, officers responded to 90 crashes and 112 spinouts in Minnesota. Today, 10 crashes have been reported in North Dakota. None of them were reported as fatal. In North Dakota, I-29 has now reopened from the South Dakota border to Grand Forks, but it's still closed north of Grand Forks. On most roads on the east side of the state, scattered ice and snow drifts are still a problem. Roads are still poor in Minnesota. I-94 East is closed from Fargo to Fergus Falls, and it's also closed in Highway 10. This purple area is travel not advised, with many of the roads either partially or completely covered in ice and snow. Visibility is low in some areas, so take your time as you travel. For the latest on our weather conditions, let's go to Chief Meteorologist Hutch Johnson. Hutch?
Stacy, thanks so much. Good afternoon, everyone. We still have tough conditions. That the blizzard warning has been dropped by the National Weather Service as we turn our attention to the cold that's taking hold. But the flags flapping at the Hankinson area there at the Dakota Magic Casino show that wind is still the #1 concern heading into our evening. So peak winds today were over 50 miles per hour. And the answer to your questions are, when will they decrease? Well, it's happening as we speak, but it's been gradual. Here's a look at those wind speed gusts that peaked at 60 miles per hour here in the FM area. The trees of central Minnesota holding some of those gusts back just a little bit. We still saw them approaching 40 or even exceeding 40 miles per hour in Detroit Lakes. Look at the I-94 corridor here. 56 mile per hour gusts out in Fergus Falls and near 60 in Cooperstown as well. Starting to taper off a bit in northwest Minnesota at 17 mile per hour in winds with no gusts in Thief River. Still in the Southern Valley and out towards west central Minnesota, as that's where we're finding the strongest winds. Visible satellite picking up on the snow that's been lofted in the atmosphere throughout the day in our blizzard, slowly decreasing in width and sliding onto the Minnesota side of the river, where we have reduced visibility still in places like Crookston. We have 3/4 of a mile there, and it's down in Elbow Lake still, but it's starting to improve a little bit as our gusty winds are settling down a bit. That trend continues, and after sunset we'll notice that, and then these temperatures will continue to dive. We are 4 below in the Fargo-Moorhead area. We have a near 40 below wind chill right now. It's going to be dangerous out there. Exposed flesh can freeze in 10 minutes or less. And as we take a look at your planning forecast, our temperatures will continue to dive here in the FM area, and they'll get super cold in central Minnesota, where we could see some 20s below. And out and about, taking a look at conditions in the area, we're joined now by Aaron Walling. Aaron, tell me what you're seeing out there.
Well, Hutch, the road conditions are pretty rough right now. I was speaking with the North Dakota Highway Patrol member who says that they were just struggling just to try to get roads and try to get to crews and accidents. I'm going to show you guys what we're seeing right now. Here, let me fix this real quick. So, visibility has been an issue. We've counted at least about 6 or 7 vehicles that have been in the ditches. And Hutch, I'm telling you that one of the big issues is visibility. When I spoke with North Dakota Highway Patrol, he said that they couldn't see at times, and at a point it was just zero visibility. Sure. And over there, if you see, there's a semi that's pulled over, and that's just been a common sight throughout the I-29. As we're on our way to Wahpeton, we're going to be trying to find, more and more of these issues and things that have happened on the interstate. But Hutch, as we're saying, road conditions are starting to get worse and worse at times. Hopefully, people are out and about if they're safe. But like we said, that right now visibility is still an issue here on I-29. Back to you, Hutch and Stacy.
All right, thanks so much. Aaron Walling reporting from I-29 South. It's still tough traveling out there.
Yeah, as more and more things are reopening, it seems like maybe it's getting a little better, but...
Right, It takes a while for the crews to catch up to what the wind has done out there. So take it slow and check our website for the latest road condition updates, as always.
All right, thanks, Hutch. Yeah. New developments on a missing persons case. Grand Forks police have identified that the body they found yesterday is 26-year-old Anthony Valdez. Valdez was last seen leaving Level 10 nightclub on North 3rd Street around 1:30 a.m. Sunday. Police say his body was found in an alley here on 1215 yesterday in the 10 block of North 3rd Street. The circumstances behind the death are under investigation. Police say there were no obvious signs of trauma. New for you here at 4. Former West Fargo High School teacher Ron Thompson was sentenced to 5 years in prison after he had inappropriate conversations with who he believed was a young girl. 59-year-old Thompson was convicted by a jury in October on one felony count of luring a minor by computer. Court documents say West Fargo detectives received a tip from a Florida detective regarding Thompson, detailing conversations with a detective posing as a 14-year-old girl chatting on a website. Documents say no evidence was found suggesting Thompson reached out to any other young teens or children at West Fargo High School, where he was a teacher. A Cass County judge sentenced Thompson to 5 years in prison, but he will be eligible for parole after 18 months. Also new at 4, a Cheyenne, North Dakota man will spend decades in federal prison for aggravated sexual abuse against a child. Gary Longy Jr. was sentenced to 30 years in prison and 10 years of supervised release. He was convicted of sexually abusing a child under 12 and their siblings. He pleaded guilty in September 2021. Attorney Nicholas Chase says the enhanced sentencing is due to Longy's pattern of activity involving sexual conduct against children. The Fargo Police Department held their 6-year memorial service this morning in honor of Fargo police officer Jason Mosier, who died in the line of duty on February 11, 2016. It was held at 9 a.m. at the police headquarters. Despite the weather, a flag was raised to half-staff. Take a look at this. Firefighters took their training to a new level when they saved a dog from a 15-foot deep manhole. Fire officials say they were called around 7:20 p.m. last night for reports of a dog that fell into that hole in West Fargo. Crews performed a rope rescue and were able to save the pup named Gigi within minutes. Officials say the dog was shaken up but is in good condition. A stern warning from U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. He says Russia could invade Ukraine during the Winter Olympics, so Americans should leave the Eastern European country immediately. Blinken did not detail the reason behind the State Department's latest security alert, but they called all American citizens to leave Ukraine within 48 hours.
Simply put, we continue to see very troubling signs of Russian escalation. Including new forces arriving at the Ukrainian border. And as we said before, we're in a window when an invasion could begin at any time. To be clear, that includes during the Olympics.
Overnight, a Ukrainian athlete flashed a sign that read "No war in Ukraine" to the cameras as he finished a run at the Olympics. The International Olympic Committee said there would be no repercussions for that athlete, though the Olympic Charter prohibits any kind of demonstration or political propaganda. This comes as some U.S. Army troops have moved from Germany to Romania. Russian forces still remain north of Ukraine, part of a buildup of more than 120,000 troops, leading to fears of an invasion. U.S. services inside Poland are preparing for a potential surge of Americans living in neighboring Ukraine who may decide to flee if Russia invades. President Biden repeated his warning that any Americans still in Ukraine should leave as soon as possible. Anti-vaccine truckers are now blocking 3 border crossings between the U.S. and Canada. And now the Biden administration is putting new pressure on Canada to end the protest. Chris Van Cleve is in Detroit near the blocked Ambassador Bridge, which carries about 25% of all trade between the U.S. and Canada.
This morning marks the 5th day of the nation's most lucrative trade route remaining closed as Canadian protesters blockade the Ambassador Bridge. It's forcing truckers to drive to a different, smaller border crossing about 2 hours outside of Detroit.
It doesn't take a lot to shut the bridge down.
Bruce Heyman is the former U.S. ambassador to Canada.
This moves from a legitimate, I think, protest over a vaccine mandate to now putting the economy and lives at risk.
It's a very impactful thing. I hope that we resolve quickly.
Brian Hitchcock owns a trucking company outside Lansing.
No, sir.
He's parked trailers that would normally make daily runs between Detroit and Canada. It's 40% of his business, which he says was already struggling in part due to vaccine mandates.
What does that mean for your bottom line?
The mandate was affecting it anyways because we were having a shortage of drivers that were vaccinated. So we were falling behind every week. So this just magnified it.
As the economic fallout grows, pressure is mounting on Canadian leaders.
I have been on the horn with our Canadian ambassador, with the White House. I mean, I am imploring them to get this resolved.
The so-called Freedom Convoy also continues to clog the streets of Canada's capital, Ottawa. And the protests have now spread globally, from a blockade outside the New Zealand Parliament to a trucker convoy making its way across France. In the U.S., the Department of Homeland Security is now surging staff to their incident command post in Los Angeles following a warning about a possible trucker protest during Super Bowl Sunday.
One estimate puts the lost wages just for Michigan residents because of the 5-day blockade at about $51 million. Canadian authorities are now calling these blockades illegal. The community of Windsor, just across the bridge here, is seeking an injunction to try to force the protesters to move, and police are bringing in reinforcements. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Detroit.
Meanwhile, the Milwaukee man accused of killing 6 people and injuring dozens more when he drove through an SUV through a suburban Christmas parade is pleading not guilty to multiple criminal charges. Darrell Burks Jr. entered his pleas today to 77 charges, including 6 counts of homicide and multiple counts of reckless endangerment. Prosecutors say he has a history of violent crime and was out on bail at the time of the incident. Burks' attorney has maintained that he couldn't turn off the parade route on November 21st because side streets were barricaded and full of spectators.